Lena, a young artist, moves into a historic apartment in a small town, hoping to find inspiration. Shortly after moving in, she discovers an old gramophone and a stack of records hidden in a closet. Curious, she plays one, and the room fills with a haunting melody. That night, she begins having vivid dreams of a woman from the 1920s who lived in the same apartment. The dreams become more intense, and Lena starts to see the woman during the day, always in the same dress, always with the same pleading look in her eyes. Disturbed, Lena begins researching the history of her apartment and discovers that a woman who lived there nearly a century ago disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Locals claim to hear strange music from her apartment at night, even after she was gone. As Lena digs deeper, she finds old newspaper articles suggesting that the woman's disappearance was connected to a forbidden romance with a wealthy man from the town. The man's family, not approving of the relationship, allegedly had a hand in her sudden disappearance. The gramophone, Lena realizes, plays the same song that was reportedly heard on the night the woman vanished. The video culminates with Lena uncovering a hidden compartment in the floorboards where she finds a letter and a locket. The letter reveals the woman's desperate attempt to escape with her lover. As Lena reads the final words, the gramophone begins to play on its own, and Lena sees the woman standing behind her in the reflection of a mirror, tears in her eyes. The video ends with Lena hurriedly moving out, leaving the gramophone behind, but the memories and the music haunting her long after. Claire, a journalist, is assigned to write about an old clockmaker, Mr. Hale, who has been a fixture in a small town for decades. Known for his meticulous craftsmanship, Mr. Hale is reclusive and rarely speaks about his past. When Claire visits his workshop, she is captivated by a unique clock that stands out among the others, a beautifully ornate but strangely out of sync timepiece. Mr. Hale is reluctant to discuss the clock, but Claire's curiosity leads her to research its origin. She discovers that the clock was commissioned over 50 years ago as a wedding gift for Mr. Hale's fiancée, who tragically died just before their wedding day. The clock was designed to count down to their reunion, but it has never been in sync, as if the timing was forever off. When Claire confronts Mr. Hale with what she's learned, he finally opens up. The clock was meant to be a symbol of their eternal love, but after her death, he could never bring himself to finish it properly. It remained out of sync, much like his life after her loss. Claire convinces him to try fixing it one last time. In a poignant moment, Mr. Hale adjusts the clock, and for the first time in decades, it begins ticking perfectly. As it chimes, a sense of peace washes over him, and he thanks Claire for helping him finally let go. The video ends with Mr. Hale placing the clock in the town's church, dedicating it to his lost love, and the town regarding it as a symbol of enduring love and closure. Mark, a man in his late 30s, begins receiving mysterious phone calls at midnight after moving into his late parents' cabin in a remote area. The first call is just static, but each subsequent call becomes more disturbing. A faint voice on the other end starts to speak, giving cryptic warnings and asking questions that unsettle Mark. As the calls continue, Mark's unease grows, especially when the voice mentions details from his past that only his deceased parents would know. The calls seem to be tied to a tragic event from his childhood, a car accident that claimed his parents' lives, leaving him as the sole survivor. Mark tries to ignore the calls, but the voice becomes more insistent, warning him that he's in danger. Desperate for answers, Mark digs through old family belongings and finds a forgotten police report that suggests the accident wasn't as straightforward as he was led to believe. On the anniversary of the accident, the midnight call takes a terrifying turn. The voice, now clear and unmistakably his father's, tells Mark that someone had sabotaged the car intending to harm the entire family. The father's voice urges Mark to leave the cabin immediately. The video concludes with Mark fleeing the cabin just as a tree crashes down onto the roof, exactly where he had been sitting moments before. The calls stop, and Mark never returns to the cabin. Years later, he learns that a distant relative with a grudge against his parents had confessed to the sabotage on their deathbed, confirming the warnings from the midnight calls. The story ends with Mark reflecting on the mysterious and protective nature of his parents' final messages,